Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, B&B fam. This podcast is sponsored to you by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Is there something getting in the way of your happiness? I know when I traveled the world, I had many days where BetterHelp's worldwide service of licensed professional therapists could have helped me speak to someone no matter where I was in the world about whatever was happening with my life, and with zero judgment. With their ability to match me with a therapist that best fits me, I know my mental health would have been way better back then. Believe me, I needed it. But I'm here to share a way for you to take back control of your mental health by telling you about BetterHelp's awesome services they have for you to talk with a pro about your life through their app or just online. Whether it is a video session or some simple messaging, their team is here to help. I went to check out the app for myself just to see how easy it was to use, and after a series of questions, I was told I would be able to start matching with a therapist in under 48 hours. And what is super rad is that it's affordable and they even offer financial aid too. So come join the 2 million users that have already been helped and gain back control of your mental health by visiting betterhelp.com/backyards for 10% off your first month. Remember, BetterHelp is therapy done securely online. Don't forget to use the special code BACKYARDS and let BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help you to start living a happier life today. Hey, Backyards and Bevvies. We are live with Elliott Wiley, an old touring friend of mine.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, dude. Well, welcome to the backyard. I mean, I know you've been here a couple times.
Yeah, you got so lucky getting this house, though. You can't buy this yard.
We got so lucky, and at the right time, I mean, like, everything fell in perfectly. And what's crazy is, like, nowadays you're seeing houses at a whole different level, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, this property
I was gonna say, we can talk about houses quite a bit.
This house. I mean, every day I go outside with the little dude and we just walk the yard and kick the soccer ball now. And it's like, for years I lived out here and didn't realize just how awesome it is.
Yeah, that's important to have when you have a family.
Oh my gosh. This is...
For sure. Most people don't have that in Nashville, you know?
It's a concrete slab and 4 inches of grass.
Yep.
Fake grass probably too, a lot of them.
Yeah, I've definitely seen quite a bit of that.
Yeah,
well,
man. Well, dude, thank you for coming by today. I really appreciate you giving. You're a busy man right now.
It's been absolutely insane.
It's wild because we went from touring being absolutely insane. Like at one point, we went 3 different tours for 2.5 years straight around the world. We went country to rap to pop.
Yeah.
And it was intense.
2013. Oh, it was more than that. It was 2013.
Well, that's when we met.
Yeah.
And then the last few years of us touring together, though, is when it was probably some of the busiest times I've ever been in my life.
That was nonstop. Yeah.
Remember that Jay-Z run that we did?
A little bit.
We flew from Atlanta. I think we came home on a bus. I flew out that same day that we arrived on the bus, and then you guys met me out in Anaheim a day later.
Yep.
And it was go 24/7 for like...
You remember they had to pack some freight airlines.
Oh my, yeah.
With PA.
Oh, they
set up a full 360 arena system on like 2 days' notice.
Oh, it was wild. They had fired the one company and then called us in to replace them, and it was 360 arena show. So add in that factor of cabling, and it was a very specific cabling pattern too.
We had 11 caddies of cables. Coming from the sky on the truss on the upstage side.
It was intense. But yeah, we have actually we started in 2013 on a small country tour, and I was my first time being a crew chief and a system engineer, and you had just finished, I think it was like Motley Crue or Kiss or one of those, and
it was Tim McGraw.
Oh, it was okay. For some reason, I knew you were coming off something that was just you were getting beat on out there.
I remember I was so burned out. I think the last show was in Canada, and I forgot my passport. And I was so burned out that I didn't care. I didn't even say anything to anyone. And they're like, "Hey, Elliott, you got to get up. We got to go to the border. Everyone's got to get off the bus." I was like, "I don't have my passport." And like I just did not.
You're out.
I was so burned out. I was like, "What are you gonna do? Send me home? It's the last show. I don't
Send me
care."
home. Send me home. I'm ready. I'm ready to go home.
I was like, I need a break so bad. I'm so burned out. But they ended up letting me in anyway.
That's crazy.
So
the border's wild, man. I mean, we could go on for days about this. Just like the amount of stories that we have like out on the road. It's like, what were we doing?
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. And one thing we've all noticed is how your border experience depends on the border agent's mood at the time.
100%.
Has nothing to do with the policies that are in place.
100%. I got slammed against the wall. Like everyone's like, "Oh, the Canadians are such nice, welcoming folks." And I used to always have to. I still have to travel with this one piece of paper that shows that I was let off of a charge. And most of the time they would just look at it, and be like, "All right, go ahead." And this one time, I don't know who didn't like me. It was early morning, and it was and two, they would always try to take you through those smaller towns. So like hopefully you didn't have to like deal with like the big busy Torontos and Detroits and stuff like that. And so we were in some weird place and they pulled me in to this room and I remember they're like, "All right, stand against the wall." And I was like, "Whoa, this is different." And they're like, "We don't want you to talk." I was like, "Okay." And they're like, "Put your hands behind your back." And I mean, this guy pushed me. I'm not gonna say slammed because he didn't slam me, but he pushed me with enough force that it took a little bit of my air out of my lungs.
Yeah.
And he was like,
he's letting you know.
He's like, "If you move, I'll take you down." And I was just like,
what the A?
I was like, "Oh, this is new. Like, I've never gone through this before, but all right." So yeah, I have a million stories of the freaking border crossings, but from a lot of places around the world. And it really is always dependent on that agent looking at you at that one moment and deciding if they really want to just be a jerk.
It can make you nervous though. Because at that time, you realize how much power they have over you.
100%.
And you can't do anything.
Yeah, you just, you know what? And I think that's like, when you're getting pulled over, do you really want to go through do you really want to get slammed on the ground? Or you just want to say, "All right, I'll put my hands on the steering wheel and just go through the routine."
Yeah.
What do you want?
Sure.
So, but we've had some nice travels though, you and me. We've had some good laughs. We've had some tears. We've had some drunken moments around the world. And,
no doubt.
And I'm just glad to know that, what's awesome about life is that we grow, and you've definitely grown from that. You showing up not with no passport, you were at the time more into metal then, I would say, than any other time I've seen you. I mean, you probably still listen to some metal, but
yeah, exclusively.
You were a different Wiley back then. You were a different Elliott Wiley. Let's just say.
Yeah, when I got in this, I was like, "Oh man, there's going to be all these roadies who probably haven't seen me or talked to me in a while. They're not going to recognize me anymore."
Yeah.
I got a collared shirt. I got jeans on right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have cowboy boots on right now.
Yeah. If you knew Wiley in 2013 to probably 2000, or let's just say 2009 to 2015, you're a different person.
Oh yeah.
You are a completely different person.
Yeah. Polish death metal was like my identity for years and years and years.
Yeah. I used to watch you teach the guitar players on stage how to shred.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny to me because you're like watching a roadie go on stage before the show and then show the other guys how to pull-offs and everything.
Like economy picking.
Economy picking.
What I was doing.
And
because no one knew, and then suddenly I was playing on an amp, just blasting around the stage.
Yeah,
just noodling, just shredding and sweep picking, and everyone's just like, "What? I didn't know you played."
It was I always could tell when you were teaching someone because I'd be like walking the stairs or something, trying to like either get rid of my hangover from the day before or just stay a little bit healthy. And then all of a sudden I hear like, I'm like, all right, well, Wiley's up. Then I would hear the guitar player get up and be like, bing, 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 bing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. You have so many cool talents, and it was really cool getting to experience touring with you because I've seen you grow from the PA tech, stage tech, into a really, really good RF tech who dealt with wireless microphones and all the wireless systems, and then into an actual like system engineer. And at that point, we weren't touring together because you were we're the same Chiefs now.
Mm-hmm.
But then the pandemic hit, and it was like,
Mm.
oh, what do we do?
Yeah.
And I think you and me, though I didn't want to admit it, I would hear you at times say, like, you know what, I'm ready to get off the road.
Yeah, 100%. The last few years, particularly.
Yeah.
Which part of the hesitancy was getting to that crew chief position, which I had wanted for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And you finally get there. I'm like, yes, I finally made it. But then what's after that? It's
mixing, if you get that lucky.
Yeah.
But that could be 20 years.
Yeah. I learned that I didn't want to deal with the politics of mixing.
Yeah. There comes a lot.
When you're younger or new, you think it's all about the mix and the actual sound and the microphones and all that. Mm-hmm. It's more about, is the guitar player's wife sitting at front of house, and you got to make sure that guitar is nice and loud so she can hear it. Otherwise, she's going to complain to management because she's friends with so-and-so.
Yeah.
It's just like that type of stuff just really turned me off.
Very few engineers get away with not having that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the 1% of the 1% at that echelon of mixing where they can tell the wives to go eat it.
Yeah, I have seen that type of mixer. It's not
rare.
Very often.
Very rare. Because most of the time you're dealing with management sitting next to you. Or like you said, the wife came out. Or the wife's girl, like the wife's friends are all in town and they all want to hear, but they can't hear the singer. Or they can't hear the vocals. Or, there is a lot of politics inside of that. So, I mean, the cool thing is that I think you had already admitted to yourself that you had wanted to get off the road. So I think getting it to that position, or even getting to your position, you're like, there I am. But now I'm good. I'm happy.
Yeah, it's I've heard a lot of YouTube videos about people, like, once they reach their goal, they experience depression. People graduating college, or once they get their doctorate.
What's next?
And that's part of it. It's because you were finding meaning in the climb and the reaching up and the growing.
Yeah.
And once you get to that plateau, it's like, where do you go? You need to find something else.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened to me. I got kind of bored about doing it, and it was just time for something else.
Yeah.
I got to always be growing and doing something new.
Yeah. There is something to be said, too, about doing a tour because it's almost mindless at a certain point. Once you've built it and you have everything labeled perfectly and it works, all you're really doing is maintaining until something breaks.
Yeah.
And so it can be and if you take care of your stuff, you can go a whole year without ever having to worry about a piece of gear breaking or malfunctioning. And the way it's getting built nowadays, especially if you're on a tour where your engineer isn't carrying around a bunch of like priceless, studio equipment, the chances of like an amplifier breaking are lower and lower as everything gets built nowadays.
Yeah,
efficiency.
For sure. Yep.
So I can totally see that point. So when this all happened, this was like 2019, right? You had hopped into that slot, end of 2018.
Yeah, 2018, 2019.
And then,
of course, early 2020.
And then the panoramic hit.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Mm-hmm. Well, what a better way to then say goodbye.
Yeah. I really took the pandemic as a way to change my life.
Yeah.
I wasn't just going to sit around. And like a lot of our buddies, they just sat around just doing nothing.
Yeah.
Just kind of wasting time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I was like, screw that. Let's just start something new. Use this as a catalyst to make my life better.
It's a way to eventually end up exactly where you wanted, at home.
Yes.
I mean,
I wanted my own bed, Phil.
It's sad. You know what? I never knew that. I never realized it until the pandemic hit. How awesome it was.
So I had my mom come visit me after I had bought my house in Madison, and she's like, "Oh my God, you need like a mattress," and I was like, "I need that so bad." So we went out and just bought the best mattress that we could have. That year, I spent 8 nights on that
crazy.
mattress.
It's brand new still.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays it's not, but then
No.
for a while it was brand new.
Yeah. So that's how much I was gigging.
Oh,
back
yeah.
then. That's insane. 8 nights in your house in a whole year.
Yeah.
That's insane.
When we got hired on to Claire, I remember I toured with a guy, and he had spent more time in one arena than he had his house in a span of a year. Think about that. One arena, he had been his feet had been planted in that place more times in 1 year than his actual house. And so, hearing that at the time, I was young, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Nowadays, not so much.
Yeah.
It takes such a toll on you. And so I remember when you would bring up how you'd want to get off the road, I would kind of take it as like, that's weird. Not necessarily weird, but just, you have such a great life out here on the road. But then it really took something like the pandemic to show me that the road was such a, there are great people, there are great times, but it's not the healthiest of places to be.
Right.
You can really dig yourself into some dark, deep,
Oh, yeah. Those holes for sure.
Yeah, and they're easy to come by, too, because you're in a new city every day, so it's way easy to find trouble.
Yeah.
You don't have to run from trouble.
100%.
Because your whole job is running already, so...
Yeah, no problem finding trouble.
Yeah, so pandemic hits, I went into a warehouse, and you started working on an idea, right?
Yeah. Doing home inspections was the idea.
Okay.
That takes a lot of time. So
what even sparked home inspections? Because you're not the only roadie that left the road and is a home inspector. Another close friend of mine did the same thing, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
it really is a cool trait to have because you really have to be good at it. It's not something you can just wander into and do half-ass.
Oh no. No, you'll get your butt sued if you.
Well, exactly. There's a lot of liability inside of it. So, so what even sparked that idea in you?
So I had bought a condo in 2010. And I enjoyed the rental game. So I had bought one in 2012 and then 2014 as well. So over the time dealing with tenants and fixing things, I just got a knack for being handy around a house, and I could do everything on my own. And when I was thinking about what can I do besides being a roadie, since that option at the time was zero.
Well, we didn't really know when we would come back, if it was even gonna come back. I mean, everything was torn apart. Yeah,
100%. I mean, everyone we knew lost their jobs. It was like March 13th, I think. It was like dominoes.
Yeah.
Once one tour decided not to do it, everyone just
I was supposed to leave the 13th, too.
Yeah.
Or the 12th, and I think they told me, don't get on your flight.
Yeah. Yep. So what were we saying?
So you'd been able to be handy with everything around the house.
Yeah.
And you were like, well...
Yeah, so one of the things I liked about being a roadie was all the autonomy that we had, particularly on days off. So that was an important life factor to me. So when I was scouring all the different jobs that I could do, my own schedule, autonomy, was towards the top. Because I still wanted to be able to travel and do what I wanted, but also to make good money.
100%.
So that was something that came to mind where I could make my own schedule and book my own time. I didn't want to have to clock in 9 to 5 or deal with the boss or anything like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard gamble to say like, okay, I'm done having a lot of my own time in a way. Like, because as a roadie, you kind of do.
It depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you are like doing awesome stuff and you have days off, but at the same time, you're also like
strapped to,
in jail at some point. It's like, because you're on that train and that train is moving and you cannot get off.
Do not get off.
If you get off, you're going home.
Yeah, it's going to leave you.
Yeah.
It's not going to wait for you.
Right. So you can feel trapped in that sense on the road.
For sure.
At the same time, when you do have like some proper like actual days off in some crazy, Melbourne or like
you can go have some fun.
Switzerland or something. It's amazing.
Yeah, so you wanted that same idea.
I wanted both, Phil. I wanted to sleep in my own bed, make my own schedule, make a lot of all those stereotypical things everyone says they want.
Of course. Well, and when you start looking at what you can do, so all right, there you are. You're like, man, I'm good at house stuff. But
I had that skill.
But to be a plumber, you either start at the bottom and build your own company again. I mean, it's the same with like home inspection. You got to start somewhere, and it's like, well, do you go work for a company? Because then you're doing everything you just told yourself you don't want to do.
Right.
Or do you start your own?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I first got my license, I did interview with a company.
Oh, okay. Well, and here's the interesting thing too. It's like a lot of people started looking at what they could do, right? Home inspection is not something you can just walk into. You really have to do some homework. Then you have to take a lot of tests, and then it's not just like, oh, I'm done with this job, I'm going to just walk into this other job. So you really had to like put a little effort into this too. It wasn't just
it's quite a bit, because the way it works in Tennessee anyway is you have to take a 90-hour course, and pass a bunch of exams, and then that allows you to take the state exam.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is, you can get your license relatively easily just if you can pass those exams, which are kind of hard, but anyone can do it if you study up on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not rocket science, but the quantity of information is
a lot.
Because you have to take a national test. So, like around here, for example, we're not using furnaces that are heated by oil.
Oh,
like a big oil tank in the ground, for example. Around here, that never happens.
Yeah.
But when you take the exam, it's like you do have to learn about those things, because they might use those up in New York, So there's a lot of information that you need to ace. Even though it might not all apply to general housing in Tennessee.
So there you are, studying away.
Yeah, studying away.
Probably thought you were done with school.
Yeah, for sure.
But you traveled the world. You've been on some of the biggest tours in the world.
Yeah, but
I don't need school again.
I enjoyed it though, Phil. It wasn't like literature 201 or whatever.
Okay.
It was like I was on fire at that point. I had a drive.
Yeah,
and
you had a true passion that you were finding inside of this information.
It was nonstop studying those giant books. And it was great because I didn't really have a job at the time, like right away.
Yeah, so
all I had to do was wake up and just
study
nonstop until I went to bed.
It's not like you could go anywhere.
Yeah,
it was nice because I'm assuming that you were probably getting a little bit of the cash from unemployment at the time.
Yep.
Because I did the same thing. Like I was like, we were still working technically for a company, so we were able to benefit from some of that. So it's like, yeah, you might as well take that advantage and build something on yourself instead of just sitting around, doing nothing. So
yeah, for sure.
So you take this exam and then you thought about working for a company.
Well, once you take the exam, then like the real work starts, because then you can get certified. So you have there's like, I don't know, a handful of home inspectors associations, a couple like really giant ones.
Okay.
And that essentially puts you like on the map, so to speak, in terms of like knowing what you're doing.
Okay.
So once the state says you can do a home inspection, but then to be legit, you get certified by one of these giant associations.
Interesting.
And to do that is like way more than 90 hours of coursework. So, and then you're doing specific stuff. So for example, like, I would log on. It says, in your first year, you have to do, these 20 courses. And, one is on decks, one's on foundation, one's on the roof, all these, moisture problems, all these different things. And they're all, I don't know, anywhere from like 8-hour to like 16-hour courses, like each one. So you have a lot to do once you get your license.
Yeah. And
the thing is, technically, you can do an inspection, but you don't want to if you haven't done all this coursework. It's like, especially your first few, you don't know what you're looking for, and you haven't even like, what are you going to do? Go inspect a house, and you don't even know what
Where to start?
foundation stuff to look at.
Yeah.
You didn't like pass all that coursework, and someone's going to say, it's like, hey, like, what qualifications do you have to look at my foundation? And you'd be like, well, I mean, I did pass the state exam like a few months ago. Like, that's not going to work.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn last week.
Yeah, and this guy's going to be like, well, yeah, well, if I'm paying you several $100s, you damn well better have passed all this stuff and know what you're talking about.
Because at this point, you know the ramifications of if something goes awry, it could fall back on you too. So you don't.
It will fall back.
Yeah, it will fall. That's that is a really great thing to have in the back of your mind, though.
What, fear
of
losing my business and getting sued?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, because it's going to push you to learn. Obviously,
it does for sure.
If you haven't already fallen in love with what you're about to do, the fear of getting sued should put a little bit of passion into you, right? So, so hopefully, you're walking into this idea, like you said. All right, I took the course. What certifies you? Well, this does. I can look at that foundation, and then over time, you're going to get better at looking at foundation too. So like, not only do you have the certification, but then you have the time of actually looking at foundation. So that's pretty cool. What when you were going through all these courses, was there something in the back of your mind like, is this the right fit for me, or was each step just getting more and more, like, were you just loving it more and more?
Honestly, I was loving it more and more.
That's cool.
Which is, I think I just got lucky by choosing something that I enjoyed.
Yeah, because I mean, like, every house, I mean, unless you go into like a cookie cutter neighborhood, is different to a certain extent. But then the same.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we said about touring.
Yeah.
It's, yes, the homes are all different. So you could talk about that all day, but then also you could talk about how they are the same.
Yeah. Like,
so
plumbing should be the same across the board.
Essentially, it should be, yeah.
It should function the same.
Right. Yeah, same thing with anything else. So, yeah, you can definitely go both ways with something like that. But it hasn't been to the point where I'm getting bored.
That's cool, though.
So, because I'm still learning stuff as I go.
Which is important.
You have to.
Have to.
Yeah.
If you're not learning, you're dying.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
That's a Tim McGraw song.
Is it?
I don't think so.
Well,
but it sounds like
if it is, he knew what he was talking about with home inspections. Because you got to think, like, I'm essentially competing with all the other home inspectors in Nashville.
How many are there? Would you take a wild guess? I mean, there probably has to be hundreds. Maybe. I mean,
like, fully active ones, I would probably say 60.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
the community is actually pretty small.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And the reason that is you have, well, here now anyway, there's about 3 companies that all have like 12 inspectors.
Okay.
So that's like essentially my big competition is those large companies. And then there are people like me who have their own like solo company.
Would you ever, I know that you said you had that option. Would you ever go to a big company like that? If the money and the time and everything was right?
No.
Nice. I like that answer.
I had interviewed with one of those big companies.
Just didn't feel right?
It just didn't feel right. I felt like during the interview, I remember thinking that I was taking a step towards backwards. I was taking a step backwards.
Okay.
In that I had just told myself that I want to be autonomous. I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
I want to be my own boss. And then here I am in this interview to work for someone. It just didn't sit right with me. And I was like, you know what? I can always go to work for this guy whenever. If something happens later down the road and I want to, I can always go back and get a job. But now's the time to try actually walk the walk instead of just talk it.
But that right there is a very hard thing because it puts it all on you.
Well, yeah, my wallet.
Well, that too. But
you're making no money. It's like if I say yes to this interview because they're super excited, they're like, "Oh yeah, we'd love to have you." And it's like, "All right, cool."
Well, yeah, because if there's only 60 in this town, then they're busy.
I can make money tomorrow, or I can do my own thing and then struggle for the next like 8 months. And that's what I did.
But then at the same time, you could struggle, and then in 10 years, you're making quadruple what you would have there. I mean, I think that's the biggest. Well, I think like when people talk about like, I wish I had that person's job, they're not realizing that person went through the biggest struggle of their life to get at the top of whatever they're doing.
Mm-hmm. So to give you a reference on a solo home inspection versus a like a big company. So they do charge more. They'll charge like $700 to like $1,000 for a home inspection. Wow. But they only give their employees 33%.
Well, because they
got that trade off.
They gotta keep the lights on and pay for the buildings and the trucks and
and the liability.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is they hold now that you get less because you don't have as much to worry about.
Sure.
So you can walk in and be like, that foundation looks fine.
Right.
It goes back on my company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't have to market yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything.
They said every evening you'll get an email that says tomorrow be at this address and then this address, and then that's it. You do the inspection, then that's it.
Then you're right back to being what you didn't want to do.
You're an employee.
When are you going to ride your Harley?
Yep, exactly.
But that's the commendable. That's why I think it was really cool for you to be on this show, because though a lot of our listeners aren't in Nashville or Tennessee per se, there's a good majority that, hey, they might hear this and be like, I'm in the market for a home inspector. I'm going to go with this guy because he sounds like he has a little more passion behind it than he just working for Joe Schmo's company who doesn't care.
You treat it differently when your face is the company.
But I think the bigger picture is like people hearing this story and going, oh, wow, like that's really cool that here's someone going outside of the cusp and really following their passion as opposed to someone else's passion too. You know, like I don't know, it is really cool to have you on and listen to this, because I've watched your company grow. We've talked about it over the last couple of years now. You're actually at the same time building your company. You're helping my dad with his company here in Nashville, which he's restarted. And, so you are a busy person. So to get you on here, for one, was a little bit of a stretch, because normally Saturday mornings are... Yeah,
and I've been touring on like every other weekend, essentially.
Yeah, and you were that good at the job that they wanted you to come back, and you had agreed that, okay, well, fine. Here's what my time is worth.
Yeah.
Then you squeeze that in there, and but the beautiful part about it is you're able to squeeze it in because you don't work for a company.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So you can do these things still, which is pretty awesome, and then that helps you subsidize some more marketing or some more, whatever you need for your company. Because look, let's be realistic. Starting a business or starting anything new, you have funding, hopefully from either yourself or you have someone helping you in the back. On the backside.
Yeah, you have to. It's expensive. All that small, like, Phil.
I know.
I know. You got to get collared shirts with your logo, and you got to get business cards and like flyers and pamphlets and subscriptions and insurance and the wrap on your car costs thousands of dollars. So it's like, state fees.
You don't want to. And you don't want to show up looking just like this guy that has oh cool, you have a freaking flannel on. How do I know that you're legit?
Right.
So you got to look then you got the tools. All right. So here's a real question. All right. So you've gone through all this training, you've done these interviews, and you decide, cool, here it is. I'm going to start my own business. Luckily, I think by this point, you had like you said, you had a couple houses that were helping, keep, money coming in as well. Then, there's a little bit from the government, and then all of a sudden, slowly touring started opening up. And I remember you went and did a couple of little shows, like, hey, can you help us out? And you're like, sure.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, you had left the company maybe at this point, you're solo. We had a conversation at one point, and you're like, hey, I'm going to leave, but they want me to come back as like a subcontractor.
Yeah, not as a W-2, as a 1099 employee.
And we talked about prices or, like what my opinion of like the worth is, And so, so then, you're doing this. You're stacking money. You're then now buying the business cards. You're in. You are building knockout.
And the pressure's on too, because after technically I had resigned, it's like, well, this better work out.
There's only so many more times they're going to call me.
There's no safety net anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got to make money here.
Well, I read this book one time, Think and Grow Rich, and a lot of it is all based upon that. Like, okay, well, like Coca-Cola started somewhere, you know, and that mindset is, one day you do have to step away and do something on your own, and it's hard. But partly some of that is, I've already told everybody too. So I can either go out a champ and finish this, or I can just close the door and pack it all up. And
if your business fails, people come like, oh yeah, so how's the business going? Well,
because everybody wants to see someone lose. It's like watching a fight. You know someone's gonna lose. You're waiting for the knockout punch. It's just nature. You see a train coming and there's a car. Everybody's out of it, and you're like, well, this train is gonna hit that car. I'm gonna watch. Because people like that.
Yeah, you want to see it.
People like drama. People like drama. So, of course, like when you tell everybody, like, oh, I'm going to go do this business and I'm going to, you know, blah, 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 blah. People, sure, they're rooting for you. But at the same time,
yeah, it doesn't matter.
They ask because they want to know if you failed.
Yeah.
So it's better to, you know, win.
Yeah. It feels better to win.
But you're in, though. Now you are in. So, okay, let's just fast forward. You've bought all the stuff. You have the wrap. You have the shirts.
Yep.
Now you got to get the clients.
Oh, yeah. That phone does not ring on its own. You got to put in a lot of work to get that phone.
Yeah. I mean, though Nashville has a booming house market, it's not like someone just threw a rock and said, oh, Wiley's a home inspector now. Here we go.
Right. So what I experienced was, you're all excited. You just got done. You can finally do business in Tennessee. Hell yeah. Awesome. Now go up to a random realtor and say, hey, don't use the home inspector that you've been using for the past 5 years. Use me, brand new, random guy instead.
Never done one. I've read a lot.
Making that sale is impossible. That is so hard to do. That are like cold call. Yeah, but it took a lot of
no's.
Well, I'm trying to think. I don't even know how I made that happen. Just
it's a blur.
You have to dig so hard into all the resources that you could possibly muster. Like all your friends of friends, bug the hell out of them.
Well, that's where you start.
Like you got to just not give any cares as to what other people think. Your drive is making that business 100%. You have to do that.
100%.
Because I remember I was like, oh man, I don't want to bug this guy again. Like I feel embarrassed. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's your new life. This is your business. You're doing it for you. So get your ass on the phone
up.
And
wake up. I've talked about it before on the show, you know, like that self-drive and self-determination is not in everyone.
It's
people are so caught up on embarrassment or what others think of them that it's hard to know that others are judging you.
100%.
They're going to judge you no matter what you do. Yep. So you might as well do something that's the hardest, coolest thing ever that's going to make you the most amount of money potentially ever in your life and shoot for the moon. Who cares?
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
If they really like you, they're going to hang out, right? They're going to stick around.
Right. Absolutely. The biggest hurdle, I think, for me, it was, it's just embarrassing to go up to someone and pitch this idea, and you're not even that confident in your idea because I haven't even done any home inspection before. You know, it's not like I've be like, oh, yeah, I've been doing this for 5 years. Now, yeah, you can trust me. It's like, can they?
Yeah, I am right there with you.
Difficult.
It is wildly hard to get someone to trust you, especially in a position where you're just starting off. So you get the first one done though, but had you watched someone do this by chance? Like, were you like, or did you just kind of create your own process in your brain as you were reading and learning? And
a lot of YouTube videos.
Hey, YouTube's amazing. They'll teach you anything.
Everything. Yeah, because I mean, you can go on YouTube and like, hey, how do I perform a home inspection on the electrical panel?
Yeah.
And then do every component of the house. And there's like some really great channels out there that just say, hey, how do you start a home inspection business? I mean, there's like hundreds of videos just on how to do it. So you got to, I mean, if you have time, you want to apply yourself, you can figure all that stuff out.
I think one of the coolest things that I've seen someone do was like a great front of house engineer, like Pooch, share his secrets. Because he's not terrified that you're going to come take his job. So someone like on YouTube sharing their home inspection business for free. Like
That's the sign of someone who has confidence and actually knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Is the type of people that they're not trying to protect their trade secrets.
Yeah.
You know, because they're so confident that they become the a resource for everyone else. They're the one that is, the guru, the one that's giving out information, the one that's trying to help everyone else.
Yeah.
It's like the giver's gain mentality.
Gotta give.
It's like if you give to other people, it'll come back on you.
Yeah.
Don't be the guy that's like, oh, I'm going to put like a, piece of gaff tape over my compressor settings, to make the vocals sound like that. It's like, that's insecurity.
But here it is, full circle though. You're able to go online and here's these resources where it's like, you're okay, cool. I want to build this. I have no idea how. And I have no one to talk to because I don't know another person that's a home inspector. And all the home inspectors in town are trying to compete with me.
Yeah. There's a lot of that too.
So, okay, well, here we go. And so there you are. So you're like at home. You've talked to this guy. Let's just say Johnson. You called him 1,000 times and he goes, fine. Okay, fine. You can have this 1 bedroom, 1 bath shack.
Well,
and you can it's already falling apart. So you can just tell me what's wrong with it and we can just be done. And there's your first home inspection,
Yeah, essentially that is what happened. It wasn't a shack, but it was like a, I don't know, like 600 square foot condo.
Yeah.
Which was it was brand new. So it was super easy.
So everything should be good, so you should be able to walk in and truly have a great, spectacular one.
Yeah, and I got so lucky, too, because the agent, he just opens the door, he goes, oh, well, have fun. And, I'm all nervous, because I didn't know what to expect, if he was going to, be watching me the whole time, or, if clients were going to be there. He just opens the door and says,
see you in a couple hours.
And I was just like, oh, thank God.
That's awesome, though. But you have bought, again, you've bought the tools, you've done the research. There you are now, standing alone in this room. Now you have all the time on your world to truly put together your idea of what a home inspection should be.
Yep.
Here's the tour. Here's your prep for the tour. Since we toured for so long, we can use that as a reference. And here's me pre-production touring before the band gets there. I've labeled everything. I've taken the panels off. I've looked in. Everything's signal flow's good.
Yeah.
And you have the meters, right? Yeah. I mean, you've shown me some of your tools. You have some pretty cool tools.
Yeah.
So what was it like to use your tools, your new tools, in a completely new environment for the first time?
It was good. They can give you confidence, for sure. Especially if you know that you have the best technology available to you.
Yeah.
Compared to other companies that don't have all that stuff.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have confidence in yourself, you can trust the gear.
Very true.
Which, that's not something you want to rely on.
Well,
ultimately, you want to rely on yourself and your own confidence. But at the time,
it's a tool.
Yeah.
Like looking at an analyzer meter, you're like, okay, is everything reading correctly? Sure, but I hear a click.
Yeah.
That's not correct because it could all read good, but if you're looking at a broken piece of wood, it's broken.
Yeah. Do you want that cheap analyzer, or do you want the super expensive one that can really make your job easier?
So did you spend some time in that first house? Really,
Oh my God, Phil. Oh man. Yeah, look, I don't remember what it was. Probably a few hours or something.
Yeah.
That probably would take me 45 minutes now.
Nowadays.
Yeah.
That's awesome though.
Yeah.
So when you go into a house, you pull up, let's just say 3-3, right? 3 bedroom, 3 bath, 2-story house with a basement. Yeah, I'm trying to give you all the options here. Where do you start? What's the first rule of home inspecting?
Yeah. So what I've learned is you have to create a process and follow that process to the T. Otherwise, you're going to miss things.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you just open especially at first when that process wasn't solidified, you just open the door and you're like, oh, look at the flooring, look at the leak up here. It's like, oh, the roof lashing's all messed up. You're going all over the house randomly. You're going to miss stuff.
Randomly is a good way to put that.
You cannot do that. You cannot do that.
Did you create a spreadsheet, or was someone nice enough to share online?
So I have a list of all the major components.
Okay.
Well, I did. Now I don't really have to worry about it as much. But when I was starting, you have a list and you just do a big checklist of things.
Giant checklist.
Especially the major components, so you don't get back home and be like, oh, damn it, I didn't even look at the water heater.
Because you can't go back sometimes.
It's like, now I'm going to have to call this agent, tell her I missed something. This is my first one with her. Now she's not going to trust me. It's like,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
You don't want to go down that road. So let's just avoid all of that and create a good process in which I will miss nothing every single time and know that I am right.
Yeah.
So to do that, I always start top to bottom and go clockwise. So I do the outside first.
Does the yard count?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the yard's a big one.
Really?
So, yeah, especially around Tennessee, because everything...
Drainage, I'm assuming?
The drainage. It's horrible. There are rivers and creeks around every house in Tennessee.
They'll pop up when it rains. They'll be dry as...
Even like, you got some kind of swale over there, that holds water, I guess, when it rains.
Oh, yeah.
And that makes the soil shift and settle all the time.
So you start outside. You walk the property.
Yeah, 100%.
Looking at the house and the property. Or do you do property one pass and then go back to the house for another pass? Or is it kind of now you can look at both a little bit?
Generally, everything within eyesight
Gotcha.
of like the exterior of the house, I will take a look at.
Gotcha.
Because even homes being near a creek, I do put that in the report, just because some people forget that might flood.
Yeah.
And in Tennessee, probably every 15, 20 years, it's going to flood, right? So you just got to think that whatever water level that is, if you raise that up 5 feet,
it could be right in your house. Is
that going to be in your living room? It's ultimately their responsibility to find out if it's in the floodplain. We, as crazy as this looks, our house does tilt down, and it all goes to a little lake way back there. But we're not in a floodplain. Even looking at that little reservoir there, we had some people come out and we had to do a whole thing. And we're actually on a hill, which is crazy. But Tennessee's pretty hilly, so we are actually on a hill. But yeah, if we lived, 100 yards that way, we would be in the floodplain. Yeah, kind of deal. It's wild. It gets tricky, and your eye can play games on you sometimes.
Oh yeah,
when you look at the floodplain and how it actually is compared to what you think it might be. That's why you got to get it checked.
Yeah, we're on a peninsula.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's wild, but that makes sense why you would start on the outside, go clockwise.
Yeah, I mean, clockwise just so
you don't forget,
just so you don't miss anything. Like when I go into the home, go clockwise around that wall, then to the next wall, and that way you touch every single surface of that. But I start from the tops and bottoms. So as soon as I go in, I go right to the AC, turn the AC on full blast, let that start working, let that start cranking, and then go up into the attic, do all that stuff. Then the second floor, go clockwise.
Do you wait for the heat at the very end? So that way you don't burn yourself out on a hot summer day?
No, it's so yeah. I've taken temperature readings of the attics. A couple really hot ones. It was over 150 degrees.
Oh my gosh. Okay, all right. We'll go back. Sorry. So you're touching all the walls. You're going through because you're doing walls, windows. Do you do if you're on a wall and you get to an AC outlet? Do you touch the AC outlet then, or do you wait to come back to?
No, I do. The way I do it is everything that I see, I do, I document immediately.
Wow.
Because what will happen, or what will happen rather, is if you catch something in your eye and you're like, oh, hey, there's a little leak up in the corner of the ceiling, but you're on something else, you'll forget about it. And then suddenly you'll leave and you'll be like, oh, damn it. I didn't document that one leak
So
there.
you stop at every...
Whenever you see something, you have to document it then and there so you don't forget it.
Gotcha. Now, that's that principle of multitasking. We're not good at multitasking.
Right.
Do one thing good.
Yeah, do one thing good. Do it slowly.
Yeah.
Like what I do is you stand in one position, like start looking up.
Uh-huh.
Most things happen up because that's where the water is coming from, essentially.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a plumbing leak, obviously.
Yeah.
But, you know, roof leaks, obviously, is from above. So look up and then like scan down.
Yeah.
And then move over a little bit, look up, scan down. And then if you see like an outlet or something,
Yeah.
do that then. Or you see a window,
Gotcha.
you know, check the window, check the doors, all that stuff. And then when you get to the HVAC or the condenser or the electrical panel or any plumbing fixtures,
Stop.
or a sump pump or the crawl, yeah, every component you see, stop, go to that component, do your checklist.
Do you have to take do you just have like a meter that goes into outlets
Yeah.
as opposed to taking the whole unit off or the plastic covering off and tapping into it and all that stuff?
Yeah, you just use an Edison tester.
Oh, okay. Because that's important to know. Like if I mean, you would think like one, okay, that's $5, but if you had to replace every single one in the house, that can really stack up for a potential client.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you test all of them in the house, you can get a feel for, if you can't see the wiring itself, you can get a feel for if your house has like old ungrounded wiring.
Oh, yeah, true.
So up until like the like mid 70s, even 80s, you know, all the wiring in your house is just two conductors, right? So there isn't a ground. And if you get an electrician out there, they're going to be like, hey, we got to, you know, rewire the entire house, which is a massive pain in the butt.
That's not cheap either.
Talking, you know, 10 grand or something like that. So,
so
yeah, that's one way we can tell. Because you don't want to necessarily put that in your report as like a massive item if it's only like one room or something. You want to try to investigate it a little bit. 'Cause obviously, you don't want to mislead people and go overboard on what you see, because maybe just the one conductor in that outlet
was bad,
got bad, or maybe it got burned and disconnected, or maybe it was just loose to begin with, or poorly installed or something. So you don't want to be like, oh, hey, it's ungrounded. Now you have to like replace all the stuff in your house when you don't know that that's actually the case. So there is an investigative aspect to home inspections, which I love. Trying to figure out all the problems.
Yeah, because I was going to say, you said that you already like to deal with homes in general.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that I could only assume, like, if you come up with a problem, it's like, well, is this really the whole plumbing system? Or is this, do you go out to okay, so when we toured, we would always say, like, all right, well, we can help a band so far, but if it gets to their gear, you know, then that starts to turn into like the tech, right? So is there a certain spot where it turns into the city and you can't go any further as like an inspector, or do you go all the way out to the water lines? And
so, right. So all that stuff is explained and documented in a big document called the Standards of Practice that I use. And essentially it's just a big list of things that I do inspect and don't inspect.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. So.
And that has to exist because the legality of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So if someone says, we had a plumber come out and he found that there was galvanized steel piping, in the kitchen or something.
Yeah.
So, but like maybe I wasn't able to see that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why there's a clause in the Standards of Practice that says inspections are visual only.
Oh, okay.
Because I can't see inside walls. So,
and it's not like you can cut into a wall either.
Exactly. Right. So I don't want to get sued later on because someone found a piece of, galvanized piping inside one of the walls where I didn't even have access to.
True.
Because that wouldn't be fair to me.
Yeah.
So to limit that liability, there's a lot of stipulations like that.
That makes sense.
Like inside the piping. I can't see inside the piping.
Yeah.
It's like maybe you have cast iron drainage piping, which only lasts 50 to 80 years because it rusts from the inside out. Well, that's from the inside out. I can't see that.
Yeah.
Right? So,
that's a true.
Or stuff like the wiring, too. Like, I open up the electrical panel, and hopefully you can see the ends of the wiring.
Mm-hmm.
You look for like a cloth braid on the outside because generally that means it's only two conductor wiring. But not always, because there's always different manufacturing
100%,
stuff. So there is cloth wiring, Don't get me started with the wiring.
Yeah.
There's so many different things to it because there's like cloth sheathing, but people say cloth wiring. They don't really know that sometimes you can refer to just the sheathing, or you can refer to the actual sheathing around the conductors themselves.
Oh, wow.
If that's cloth like it was back in the day, that's no good. You got to get that replaced.
Okay.
But sometimes it is vinyl around the conductors, but then they put cloth around it. And that may be okay.
Gotcha.
But some of that is only 2 conductors and some of that's 3 conductors. So it's... people freak out when you tell them they have cloth wiring. But that could mean so many different things that just saying that's not enough. You have to be more specific than that.
So that's where that investigating goes. And then at the same time, then you're leading them to say, well, look, this is what I've observed. Because in the report, it's like a red, green, and red, right?
Yeah.
Coloring system in a way. And it's like, well, I gave it a yellow.
There's
because I'm going to recommend that you go get a better, like a true electrician to come out here and tear the panel apart and look at it more thoroughly, right?
Right. So one of the conditions is that it was visible by the inspector. So observed by the inspector.
Okay.
Because if you put in just it was visible, but if you didn't see it, it could still be classified as visible, and then you didn't see it, and then you're liable for it. But if you word it and you say it was observed, then that liability is not on you anymore because maybe it was something that you didn't see.
And you take photos of most of the stuff too, right?
Yeah,
you're
all
like
the time.
You're just like walking around like a little paparazzi in that house. Click, 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 click everywhere.
Yeah, I think I average like 300 pictures per inspection.
It's pretty impressive.
It's a lot. I mean, you want to be thorough. That's what they're paying you for.
I mean, I'm going to go on a limb and say we could probably spend 4 hours talking about just the wiring alone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can get as nerdy as you want, Phil.
Oh, no, I believe that. I can wholeheartely believe that you can. Unfortunately, our shows, we try to keep them under 4 hours by quite some time. I do have an interesting question, though, that would arise. And it might actually more be it's all as important as the other, but is there one part to a house that is the most important?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you could go on a limb and say, well, like the foundation, but then like, well, yeah, but if like the plumbing is all, I don't know. Like that's why I'm posing this question: is it all important, or is there one true one that if that is messed up, that is like a game changer for the house? Tear it down, start over, burn it.
Right.
My wife would say brown recluses, but I would say a home inspector would say you're wrong.
I crawl around those guys all the time.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. They don't want to bite you.
They run. Right?
They run, yeah. Make noise when you're in that crawl space. You just don't want to press up. You don't want to, like, if you see one on you, you don't slam it down. You brush it off.
Get it off you.
Because they'll only bite if they, like...
Feel pressure.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
Good, thanks. Tell my wife that.
Yeah, that'll make her feel better.
She probably won't, but I'll let her know. So okay, so
So
it's not brown recluses.
No, it's not.
Okay.
No. Yeah, I would probably say honestly, probably the grading of the yard.
Interesting. Yeah, because I guess if it's all graded towards the house.
Yeah.
You're going to have some funny stuff happening.
Yeah, if any inspectors see that, they're all going to, like, comment on that. All these nerds. Assuming the house is in, like, okay shape.
Yeah.
An average shape, and there's no, like, giant problems. I would say the grading, for sure.
Interesting, yeah. Well, because it would just lead to so much, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And most people, they don't see things on a large scale like I do, because I'm doing it every single day.
Yeah.
So things that seem small, they probably are at the time. You could go a couple years without fixing it, you wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah.
So it seems small to them. But when the corner of your house starts cracking off from itself, well, now you're talking about like, $15,000 fix to jack up the corner of your house. When really you should have just regraded the yard so water's not flowing.
Yeah.
And making it all muddy.
Could have been an $800 fix.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're looking at a $50,000 or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, potentially
Right.
a very high.
And even if you do get your foundation fixed professionally, you devalue your home. Because now when someone comes in to buy it and they're all excited and they found out it has foundation issues, even though you might show them the paperwork from a reputable company, that value of their house is not going to be the same.
Really?
So,
wow. Do you think that there's more issues? Well, I guess here's a foundation question for you. Like I grew up in Texas where they lay down cement slabs like crazy. That's not a thing here. You know, right? It's more crawl spaces and posts into the ground. Is that because of the water table and the soil and?
So most new builds now are slabs.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Is that just a new thing because of home knowledge and building?
It's easier. It's just way easier, and you have less problems to deal with, particularly because we have moisture like crazy.
Yeah.
Everything's humid all the time. And when you get humidity inside of a crawl space that's dark, then you're going to get mold. Then you're going to get the termites in there. All your columns are going to start to shift because the ground's going to stay wet.
Yeah.
So it avoids a whole lot of problems.
Oh, okay. Do you like? My house. It's like it was built in 1948. Right.
They didn't. Their standards were so different back then. They weren't worried about stuff like mold and moisture.
Oh, no.
That just wasn't a thing. Like insulation in the walls and stuff.
We've encapsulated it and stuff like that, and it's completely changed many, many awesome things about the house, but it's also changed other things about the house. But I can tell you this, looking at it, walking into an old house, it can look amazing. And I feel like contractors are really good at hiding stuff.
That's their job.
They are really good at making a house that was built in 1942 or 48 look like it was built 10 years ago.
Yeah, I see that all the time.
And I would only go on a limb to say that that's a new build's easy. An old build that has never been renovated is easy. The ones that are probably hardest for you are the ones where you had a contractor come in and renovate the inside. Because, man, I find stuff weekly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
How did I never see that?
Right.
And nothing's changed. Like, we haven't done anything to the house, but wow. It is bad sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Homes always look good on Zillow. You know,
it's the lighting, right? They turn on all the lights and take a really good photo.
Man, some of those people all get sued because the way they edit those photos.
Oh my gosh!
You know,
they can make a room look 1,000 feet long.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
For sure. All those blemishes on the wall, they can Photoshop that, no problem. Put the contrast up, add that saturation in there. It looks awesome.
You walk in, you're like, what did I just walk into?
What the hell is this?
Oh my gosh. My floor is like, it literally looks like the Sahara Desert some days. I roll a ball across the floor for my kid, and there's no telling what direction it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, one funny one was I looked at the picture. It was like the nice siding of the house. I was like, okay, this one's going to be a nice one. And then, so I start walking around the yard. It starts, curving around like this. The whole wall is, all bent in like this. When you look straight on, you can't tell. It's awesome.
But when you
look around like that, you're just like, wow, okay, this whole thing's got to be
the whole wall is toast.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Dude, I am not kidding you. And when I got to work for that cabinet company, was the first time that I really started to realize, looking at what contractors do, and the demand is so high here that it's not even like I'm blaming them or their workers. It's just the demand for people to get their homes renovated, either to sell or just to live in, is, I don't even know. I'm sure it's astronomical.
So, yeah, there's so much demand that contractors only pick the juiciest jobs. So if you have something minor in your home, it's so tough to get fixed.
Yeah.
And they can charge whatever they want because there's a small portion of people that will pay that price.
Yeah.
So everyone else doesn't have that money.
See you
has
later.
a very difficult time
Yeah.
getting it done.
And they don't even really have to do a great job.
They don't do a great job.
They don't.
They'll show up drunk.
Oh my gosh.
They'll do a horrible job, but people just go with it just because that's their only option, which is horrible. And there is such a market for just a general contractor that will show up on time and do a good job.
Dude, you've met him, my buddy Neil over in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
His whole, and I have to say, it really does take integrity to be in that business and do a good job, because there's so many that don't. And his whole gig most of the time in Houston right now is redoing other contractors.
Oh yeah,
shitty work. He like straight up tells me, he's like, dude, like we will like go into this home and be like, wait, why do you want this? Oh, now I see why you want this renovated. And they're like, yeah, this guy came out and did this and blah 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, well, this is the price.
Yeah, you know, when I do new builds, I find a lot of stuff.
Well, they're just as bad.
They're just as bad because the builder themselves, they're not the one doing the work.
Yeah,
they're subcontracting. They're going to tell someone, oh, hey, we're building a neighborhood that has 50 houses, and can you do all the roofs? Well, to that guy, he doesn't have any actual investment, like other than getting paid.
Yeah,
and he wants to do it quickly,
so
as cheaply as possible, and stamp them out and get done. Once he leaves that home, like he doesn't really have to care about it again, because now it's kind of the builder's problem.
Yeah,
like those flooring guys. I mean, they'll do a couple houses in a day. And just get it done as fast as possible and get on to the next one. By the time a problem comes up months later, I mean, those guys are long gone.
Dude, I have to introduce you to this person one day, and this is going to be a quick story, but she recently bought one of those homes in a community, and in a pretty nice community too. Like, no house is cheap. Let's just say that, right? Like, even if you bought a $50,000 home, you're at this time in life right now, it's $50,000 for a reason. So to live in there, you're probably gonna have to put $50,000 or more into it to actually live comfortably, right? So let's just say that she bought a average home in Nashville, Tennessee. Like that's an expensive home.
I forget what the average price was. I think
I'm gonna go on a limb and say it's $400,000 probably.
Yeah, it was something like that.
$350,000 to $400,000, right? That's a lot of money for someone to spend, right?
Yes.
She gets this house. Brand new. No one's lived in it, right? And the home builders, like, who knows what they were thinking when whoever inspected it. And this is why it's so important, I think, for people to listen to someone like you, because you need to hire someone that is reputable. You have to hire someone that's willing to put in the work, because, like, yeah, like, fine, go work for one of those big companies, like, no slack to them, but if their guy has no stake in the company, then what's it to him if he misses something?
Doesn't matter.
But for you, it's everything. Like your stake in someone's house is so much higher, even if you don't know a single thing about the person, because it's on you. It's on your reputation. It's in your integrity, right?
If I don't get that 5-star and my 5-star rating goes down, then
it's on you. It has nothing to do with anybody else.
Yeah.
And so she buys this house, man, and literally lived in it for. Let's just. I'm gonna mess up the numbers, but let's just say a month. And all of a sudden, the whole house on the bottom floods. It's a 2-story house. It's a big house. It's a nice house. First off, they didn't even want to like help her out the first time when they like the last few walkthroughs she went through. The builders were like, "Oh, it's just where it goes," and she's like, "Yeah, but when we
where what goes?
Like just like the counter was off, like let's say 6 inches, you know." She's like, "No, but when we talked about it, it was over here," and it's like, "Yeah, but that's where it goes now." And it's like, how can you be that way to someone who's spending that kind of money? But and the other flip side to it is that there's such a demand that no one has to have any integrity in the business anymore. They can just be like, "Oh, sorry, whatever. It's just
20 people lined up to get that house.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you don't want it, don't take it."
Yep.
But so she takes it and it, signs all the paperwork, does all these things, and then it's just like one thing after another. Then she goes back and they finally are like, "All right, we messed up." And then even inside of that, they still treated her so bad. It's such a hard story to listen to. And, like I hope, I'm not going to say any names right now because I don't know what she's planning on doing once it's all fixed. And that's, but I hope that justice is brought to her, because it is such a sad story of someone who's so generally nice that you're just like, it's such a bad thing. I don't know.
Mhm.
I wish that I could slam that company.
Yeah, I know a complete badass construction lawyer.
Oh yeah,
That's exactly what he does.
I will introduce.
If you need that contact, this guy's pretty incredible.
Because that's the unfortunate part, though, is that someone does take their hard-earned money and turn around and get. It's one thing if you went out and bought a McDonald's cheeseburger and you got home and it was a fish fillet. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this isn't a sweatshirt that you're buying.
Yeah, this is a multi-year deal that you're signing with someone, especially when it's new. That's the hurtful part. All right, fine. You renovated my 1948 house and you freaking you didn't do what you should have done.
Right.
But I'm gonna let that go. This is a brand new.
My word of advice, because I've heard a lot of stories like that.
Yeah.
My word of advice would be to hire a construction lawyer to go over all the contracts before you buy. It would be so worth your money.
Especially a new build, right?
Yeah, I was talking about a new build.
Okay.
Because you do have all types of stuff in the contract where it says, up to 1 year we'll like fix anything or whatever. Essentially like a warranty where they'll come in. Man, there's so many loopholes in those things because they do it.
They write them smart.
Yeah, they write them to benefit themselves, of course.
Of course.
But you have to get a lawyer to go in and actually read that stuff because, oh man, there's one the other day. What was it? It was like all the flooring cracked or something, like real bad.
Gosh.
But there was something in there where it's like, well, it wasn't us that did the flooring, so now it's like
it's out of our hands.
It's like,
yeah. I bought that house from you, though.
Yeah, like what stuff like that.
But I could see a company building a whole contract that says something as stupid as like, well, once you purchase this home in this building, blah, 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 once you step on it, it's out of our control. And you're like, and if you don't read the fine print, you're like, you're toast because you stepped on it.
It's like a year warranty, but then everything's excluded within the warranty.
Yeah. So bad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, I'm gonna say this, like we're gonna start wrapping up here in a second, but I really appreciate you coming in and spending this time and giving the listeners. Yeah. Again, some of these people live in Arizonas, and we even have some Germanys in there. So it's like they're not gonna be able to use you, but if you're in the Nashville area and you're looking for a reputable home inspector, knockout home inspections is the way to go. Elliott, Wiley. I mean, and it's because you have such stake in the game that I think makes you stand out across the board from so many other people. And I think honesty is a big one to that as well. Like you're not going to go write this report just to be done and then go do another one tomorrow because that's just what the company wants you to do. You're like writing these reports because you truly want to write these reports to give back.
My reputation is on the line for every single report that I write.
Yeah.
So
I mean, then that's a big deal. So I mean, that's cool. And I never even thought about the contract lawyer for a new home. I mean, that's giant. How do you feel about home insurance? Do you think those things are good or bad, or you no opinion on them?
If you're buying a used home, 100% get a home warranty.
Nice.
Make sure it's a good one though.
Yeah.
They're not all the same.
All right.
Yeah, you can get a cheap one that is not going to help you, but you can get a good one as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the main complaint that I hear about them is that they're difficult to deal with. If your HVAC system does go out, they'll give you the runaround until you just don't get it fixed. And then it's over, and it's like it just fizzles out.
Yeah.
But if you do get a good one, they will come out and fix it. And I've personally used it, and I've heard a lot of stories about it. It's definitely worth getting for the money, because when you just buy a home, you just sunk all that money into the down payment, and your life's most of the time there's a big life change going around that moment as well. So the last thing you need is like, an $8,000 ticket for a new, HVAC unit or whatever.
For sure.
So it can really save you from a even more stressful time, because first year is going to be stressful no matter what. So
yeah,
I definitely recommend a home warranty.
So why make it why make it more stressful without? Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's worth generally it's like $400 or $500.
Yeah,
it's worth that peace of mind,
dude. Well, thank you very much, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it. You know what I'm going to do is I'll put your link to obviously your website in the bios and stuff, and then what I'll do is I'll kind of leave it Do you have all your Instagrams on the website?
Yeah.
Instagram and Facebook and all that? Okay. All right.
Yep.
So what I'll do is I'll point a bunch of arrows at it so people know to go there. But then if they have questions, I mean, I think the coolest thing about what we talked about earlier too is that, like you're here sharing. You're available to share, especially if you have, like obviously there's certain legal things that you probably can and can't say to someone, which is to watch your butt.
Yeah, but I will say, and I try to tell people this as much as possible, to use me as a resource.
Yeah.
Even if you aren't getting a home inspection, call me up, ask me a question, text me. You can send me pictures. If you're at an open house and you say, hey, what the hell is this pipe over here? What is that? Take a picture, send it to me, call me, no problem. Like, that's the type of business that I want to run. I want to be a resource for anyone that I can help.
That's a really good
questions about buying a flip. What do you look for? Or new build, what I look for in that,
Yeah.
1950s home. Like, what,
I know that when it's time for us to start talking about demolishing this place, keeping some of these bricks, and building a new one, you're going to be right there in that entire building process. So,
yeah, right on.
No, for sure.
I can double check contractors.
Well, that's the other big thing too is, and I'm going to give one more shout out to what you do on the other side is you actually work with a group of people in town, BNI.
Yeah.
Where you have a network of people that you truly trust. It's people who have like-minded values in the sense that you're not going to stray someone to someone just for price. You're going to stray someone there because their quality is of
those
quality.
People have integrity.
Yeah.
Those are the contractors that won't rip you off.
Yeah. Well, because their goal, like you're spending your time, your money to go to these meetings and market yourself. So why do something that's going to degrade that,
Exactly. They have something to uphold.
That's awesome, man. So I just think that you just coming on here and being a resource like that for so many people, that don't have a resource, that's a big thing. And you do another cool thing on your Instagram. So if you're still listening to this, go follow. Is it Knockout Inspections on?
It's Knockout Nashville.
Knockout Nashville. But you do post every once in a while of things to look out for, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can get tips, homeowner tips, things to look out for, things to.
Is there a YouTube channel in your future? Maybe.
I have been so busy this summer, I can't even keep up with Instagram right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
Hey, maybe it slows down in the wintertime when I get some extra time.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you get going. I know you got an inspection to do here pretty shortly. So.
I do, yeah, on a Saturday.
Yeah.
God.
Well,
it's up in Clarksville, too.
Yeah, you're going to rock it. You're going to hey, this is what you signed up for, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, 100%.
All right, my friend. Well, thank you so much for stopping by, and everyone out there, cheers, bottoms up. Elliott Wiley, I'll link all his stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Of course. Anytime you want to come on and talk nerdy stuff, you're welcome out.
Oh, we could do a whole episode just on Nashville flips.
All right. Yeah, maybe we do that.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have a couple of realtors on, so maybe we could go back and forth.
Yeah. It's a hot topic right now. Everyone wants that cute East Nashville flip,
Yeah.
But it's like not all of them.
Stay away from the shipping container ones. Actually, those are probably built pretty decently.
I haven't gotten on that train.
Okay,
I haven't gotten on that.
We won't even start that discussion. All right. Well, much love, my friend. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers.
And bottoms up.
All righty.
Laters, y'all.